IVC, Dale Gatefold 33, back with another video. Yeah, so it's been a while, 3 months since my last video, but actually I'm back sooner than I had planned. So I've taken a bit of a break from the VC, and I thought I would take a break until probably the January 2025 vinyl tags start to go around and come back then. So why have I taken a break? Why did I take a break, and why have I come back now? If you care, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So I was kind of getting a little bit jaded with the videos, I thought, should we say, and in terms of my available time, I wasn't finding enough time to listen to the records to have enough to say in the videos, because my time was being consumed by normal story. Work had gone mad, and it's still mad. And I was spending a lot of time listening to podcasts, more and more time listening to podcasts, and more time listening to political podcasts, because 2024 is a big year for politics in the UK and elsewhere. So I made, rebalanced my how I spent my time, and making VC videos was what kind of went. However, today is the morning after the night before, when, and not necessarily what you're thinking. What was the night before? The night before was me going onto my phone, going to my podcast app, going to all of these political podcasts and going unfollow. Why have I done that? So I've been feeling down. So work is, I think, the main factor. But also, I've been in this, say, political bubble quite intensely for a lot of 2024 and years before that. It's politics doesn't tend to be fun, uplifting, etc. Tends to be a little bit bleak, miserable, and worrying. And so I found myself getting a little bit kind of in a bit of a fug recently. And so kind of brought it to a head. One thing that was said in some of the kind of post-US election analysis that kind of made me think a bit. So one of the sort of podcast families I follow is The Rest Is. So The Rest Is Politics, The Rest Is History, The Rest Is Entertainment. I like all of those. But they were doing a live cast on the US election, and Dominic Sambrook, who's from The Rest Is History, so a historian, was asked, he had predicted that Trump would win. This is not about politics. I'm not going to get political. And something he said kind of got me thinking, which was, there've been all of this. You say, I've been consumed for the last however many weeks by the US election, and before that for however many months by the UK general election. And, if you're into politics, there's so much that's going on in politics, whether that be about health, foreign affairs, national affairs, everything inside of that. And what he said is, almost like you lot in this political bubble, are agonizing over, he said this, so he can't, that's going to kill him in the election, or she said that, or he said this, they said this, they've done this, they've not done that. The vast majority of the electorate aren't in this bubble, aren't agonizing over this. They choose not to be. They could if they wanted to be, but they choose not to be in this bubble. They've got other things in their lives, and therefore, it's maybe a simpler decision for them. It's like, how have you performed, or how have you perceived that you performed, particularly maybe on in the economy? Do I feel better off under you lot? No, I'm going to vote for the other lot then. And that kind of, so all this agonizing is not something that the average person chooses to do, and I'm choosing to do it. And what's the upshot of it? So, and where we are now, it's likely, therefore, if I continue with this political discourse, it's going to be lots and lots of agonizing and grim predictions and grim tales that are going to worry me and keep me in this kind of slightly low ebb. So I thought, do you know what? I'll dip out for a while. Call that copping out, cowardice, whatever you like. I'll dip out, and instead of spending all of those hours listening to political podcasts, I'll reconnect with my music, and I'll bore you lot with VC videos. So yeah, your loss. So that's what I've decided to do. I may change again at some point. I may miss the political grimness and choose to go back again. But I've dialed it down. I haven't completely dismissed them all. I've kept a few in there just to keep me in touch with the world. I'm not going to consume too much. Anyway, so that's why I left and why I've come back, or contributory factors. So my last video was in August, beginning of August. I did 2 videos where I showed my 7-inch records inbox over 2 videos. A bit of a lazy thing to do, but I kind of recorded them and posted them actually while I was on holiday. And so I will now take you back and talk to you about my holiday. I talked to you about politics, and I'll talk to you about my holiday. So I promise I will show some records in this video. Beginning of August, went on holiday. Slightly different holiday than normal. So my wife, I think I might have mentioned this before, my wife sings in a choir. It's called Rock Choir. It's sort of a franchise thing. People who want to sing in choirs getting together in village halls and the like, and rock choir. So they're singing pop and rock contemporary songs in a choir format. My wife's done it for many years. She likes singing. It helped, it's her outlet, which is good. But this year the choir, originally was intended for 2020, but the pandemic got in the way. Her choir leader, who kind of leads a number of choirs in Hampshire, wanted to take the choirs up to perform at the Edinburgh Festival, the Edinburgh Fringe. And so that had been arranged, and my wife said, I quite fancy doing that. So rather than her, disappear for a few days, fly up to Edinburgh, do it, and fly back again, we said we'd weave it into our summer holiday break, do a bit of a road trip around. And that's what we did. So we went sort of on the Wednesday. We kind of just did literally Winchester, which is the south coast of England, up to Lancaster, 250 miles or whatever, just to break the back of getting closer to Edinburgh. Wrong side of the country, I know. We thought we'd just do a loop. And stayed in Lancaster at a hotel, nice meal, wandered around Lancaster, went down to the coast, had a wander. And then next day headed across to Edinburgh, or towards Edinburgh. So we stopped at Hadrian's Wall, looked at a ruined Roman fort complex, Hadrian's Wall, and then my wife wanted to see the Kelpies, so we stopped to look at the Kelpies, and then we eventually ended up at the Airbnb that we were staying in Kirkcaldy. So those of you who know geography will say, Dale, you've missed Edinburgh. You've gone past it. Yes, I know that was deliberate. It wasn't a mistake. So what I've done is I've booked an Airbnb, a nice flat apartment in that I wanted somewhere that was on near a railway station, about 30 minutes from Edinburgh, that we could use as a base to go in and out of Edinburgh for the performances that my wife's going to take part in, because there's no way I was going to be in the middle of Edinburgh during the festival. So we based ourselves in Kirkcaldy, got there on the Thursday evening, and then next day into Edinburgh on the train, half an hour about, and my wife had a lunchtime performance as well as the main evening performance on the Friday. So I'm just road crew for this trip, driving, holding her coat, holding her bag, making sure she's fed, making sure she's in the right place at the right time. That was my holiday, or that part of it, whereas my wife can concentrate on singing and not singing. And yes, but there was time within that, because we weren't going to try and do the touristy sightseeing bit of Edinburgh. We've been to Edinburgh before, and Edinburgh was absolutely heaving. So we decided, in between the performances, we had something to eat. My wife kind of sat down with a coffee and a book, and I had some time to shoot around some record shops. So I visited in total 8 record shops over the 2 days that we were in Edinburgh. And yeah, in terms of finds, very disappointing. No reflection on the record shops. The way I view it is that, me, the tourist casual visitor who's going to turn up unannounced at, XYZ Records at 2:00 on a Friday afternoon. I've got no right to expect vinyl gold to be in front of me, waiting to fall in my lap. If you want to get vinyl gold from a record shop, you've got to be a regular investor in that record shop, going there all the time, getting to know the owner, knowing what stocks turn over and all that sort of thing. So it's chance, and unfortunately the gods weren't with me this time. So I went to 8 shops. Out of those 8 shops over the 2 days, I found 2 records, and one of them was a new record. So yeah, not successful, but enjoyable. I got to dash around Edinburgh and got to flick through records, which is therapeutic in itself. So that was okay. So what did I find? So let's talk about that. So my first find was at Umbrella Vinyl in Edinburgh. So Umbrella Vinyl, small shop away from the centre of Edinburgh, and from what I could tell from when I was there, caters really for the sort of DJ type. It's got soul, funk, jazz, hip hop, that kind of stuff predominantly, not classic rock or indie or punk really. And and while I was in there flicking through, listening to, there was obviously a regular, I think, talking to the owner, one of the owners. Sounds like what they do is they get these sorts of collections, they post them on social media, their regulars come in, have a dig through it, and that's how they kind of go on. And that sounds perfect if that's your scene and that's your shop that's local. That sounds like a perfect setup. So however, I did find one record in there, not an earth-shattering find, but an interesting find. So this is Gabor Szabo, Hungarian jazz guitarist, and this is Nightflight, and it sounds a bit like it looks. It's sort of lush, easy, slightly cheesy perhaps, jazzy, jazz funk, jazz fusion. Music, mostly instrumental. There's 7 tracks, 4 instrumental, 3 with vocals. One's kind of got like combined harmony vocals of one, two or three of the members. Two are Gabor Szabo singing, and that's probably the bit that slightly lets it down for me, because Gabor Szabo singing is a bit like when Burt Bacharach sings on his albums. In my I'd rather probably, in my view, I'd rather listen to the instrumentals. So this was. I put the flyer in here. Get it out. Bear with. Yeah, so in the sleeve, they've put this little flyer. So US 1976, Sweet Slippery Grooves from the Hungarian jazz genius, exclamation mark. Czech Baby Rattlesnake, exclamation mark. Baby Rattlesnake track 3. VG plus, £18. £18, a little bit over the odds, but this was the third shop when I'd found nothing. I'd found something. I was not leaving with nothing. I was leaving with something, and that was the something. So there was behind the counter they had a couple of Nucleus original Vertigo Swirl albums, and I was getting a little bit desperate. I was tempted actually to buy them, but glad I didn't in the end. It was been quite expensive and perhaps unnecessary purchase. So that was the Friday. So my wife she had a lunchtime performance. So the format was, there were 2 evening performances. There were about 120 of the choirs went up there. They've been split into 2 groups of 60, did the performances, and they were sort of in the evening. And then they were split into smaller groups during the day, sort of scattered around in restaurants, pubs and places to just do a little bit of a short set as groups of 5 or 10. So my wife had a kind of like a day performance and an evening performance on the Friday, and the same on the Saturday. So she did the evening performance. I went to that, held a coat, held a bag, watched it, clapped. We went back in on the Saturday. She had a morning performance, and then we weren't gonna hang around because the performance was like 10. Then the 7 o'clock was the evening. We weren't gonna hang around for 9 hours in Edinburgh, not sightseeing. That would have been a drag. So we went back to the apartment. We went into Kirkcaldy, had a wander, had some lunch, and then went back in went back in for some dinner, and then went to the evening performance. But while she was doing the morning performance, I managed to nip, because it was quite close, to Avalanche Records at Waverley Market, which is in Waverley Station, Edinburgh Waverley Station. So it's predominantly new records. Well, I wasn't really looking for new records. I can get new records, any time really if I want to. But again, I was killing time waiting for my wife to finish. So I flicked through and did actually find this, which is the Chills Lost EP. So the Chills kind of New Zealand Dunedin or Flying Nun sound, New Zealand indie band. I've got a comp by them, an original Flying Nun comp by them, but now I've got this as well, Lost EP. This is a Record Store Day 2024 release. It was marked down to a tenner, I think, so I thought I had been interested in it at Record Store Day, but hadn't bothered. So I thought, okay, I'll pick that up. That's something. So that was that. Then we obviously did the evening performance, and that was Edinburgh. Next day, so the choir leader is originally from Dundee, and she'd always wanted to bring her choir, take them to Dundee and perform there. And obviously with a lot of them up in Edinburgh, a lot of them chose to hang around, so there was on Sunday evening in Dundee, there was a charity performance for Scottish Air Ambulance, and my wife was obviously didn't do that, so that was all of them then. It's 120 of them in a church doing their rock choir stuff, and we decided we would, so we were still in the apartment in Kilcoddy, we'd drive to Dundee, sort of have a late lunch, then go for the performance. But I had a window, I had looked and there was a record shop nearby, 13 Records in Dundee, which named after the Big Star song. And yeah, went there. It shut Sunday, so it shut at 4:30. I got there about 3:30, so I had about an hour and got in there. Fantastic shop. I think it was run by at least maybe one or two women. There were two women certainly behind the counter, but I think also one was if you like, an assistant, and one was the owner or co-owner. And yeah, really nice shop, good stock, well curated, well set out, good prices. Really happy. It was sort of used down one side with a bargain bin at the end, used CDs on the other side of the shop, and in the middle a double bank of new, and then a room at the back which I think had singles in it. But all good stuff, as I said, well curated. Everything was decent records and decent prices. So I'm going to show you some records now. I got a bit of a stack of records. I've got a bit of a stack of CDs, because there were some quite good used stuff, you know, proper albums. Gaps where I've got the vinyl version, and I want to have a CD as well for the car or whatever, and you know, so picked those up because they were good prices. And then I kind of went there with a stack. I was running out of time. I was like 4.25. I really wished I'd had time to go into the singles area, because I've said previously 2024 is the year of the 12-inch single, and I'm sure I would have found some interesting and competitively priced 12-inch singles if I'd had time, but I didn't. So I went there with my stack, and she added it all up, and she said, and she took a big chunk off to a round number, which was also really good, because they're already quite well priced. So yeah, really happy. So yeah, if you're ever in Dundee, I can recommend 13 Records. I follow them on Instagram now. They do post flick videos of what they're putting out, where you can also see their price. So you can see what they're putting out and what the prices are. And you know, every week I think, oh, that's still, they're putting out good stock at competitive prices. So what did I get? I'm going to show you five of the records that I got here. Okay, first up, I picked up this. This is Gene Clark's Roadmaster. So this is an original from 1973 on A&M Dutch press. I say Dutch press. It was only released in Holland, I think maybe Japan originally. So there wasn't a US or UK or else. This was the only place. So I don't know why. I haven't looked into it. But yeah, Roadmaster. I think it's a proper album, or maybe I've read somewhere that it's a little bit of a hodgepodge of stuff, but it's just before No Other, and slightly got that No Other feel, but not as kind of cohesive as No Other. But yeah, really enjoyable. I had the CD already. In fact, I not only had the CD, I actually had the record already, but just the record. Yeah, I bought No Other from a car boot sale several years ago, and there were two records in the sleeve, one of them being Roadmaster, but just the record, and a slightly later press of it. So, but nice to pick up an original with the sleeve. So that's the first. Next up is Nick Jones, a sort of folk album, British folk, Nick Jones. This is my, I think, fourth Nick Jones record now. I think this is his first. This is not a first press. It's sort of around the time Tron Trailer Records, Nick Jones. Yeah, nice kind of quite stripped back, sort of acoustic, him and a guitar, mostly from memory. It's been a while since I played it when I got back in August. So yeah, but a really lovely copy of that. Continuing the folk is this sort of folk rock album from 1977. This, I think I would say, is folk rock cheap heat. This wasn't much at all. 1977, John Renbourn Group. So it's John Renbourn, guitar and vocals, but also got Jackie McShee. So John Renbourn previously in Pentangle, Jackie McShee previously in Pentangle. She wasn't Pentangle, wasn't she? Yes, I had a panic attack there. Tony Roberts on sort of backing vocals, flute, recorders, oboe. Sue Draheim, I think, on fiddle and backing vocals. And then I think the thing that makes me say this is cheap heat is then also Keshav Sath, sorry if I butchered that name, on tabla and finger cymbals. So yeah, my kind of very crude rule of thumb with folk rock albums is the sweet spot is late 60s, early 70s. And then beyond the early 70s, they just become slightly weaker versions of what came before. And then they hit the 80s and then they kind of put 80s production in and that doesn't work either. But this 77 is actually, I really, really enjoyed it. And I think it's because of that tabla cymbal, finger cymbals, Eastern feel, obviously, gave it a warmth, a slightly different sound and a warmth which given it's called A Made in Bedlam, and it's got Black Waterside, A Made in Bedlam, John Barleycorn, Renadine, Death and the Lady, some of the, so it's not, it's not cheery music, but with that kind of the musicianship on it, it has got a warm feel to me. I really enjoyed it. Okay, completely different. Next is this, the Avengers, and this is a double album of the sort of soundtrack incidental music of the Tara King season of the Avengers. So Diana Rigg had left, Tara King, I think she's an American actress, wasn't she, came in and this is a double album of the series. So Laurie Johnson, I like Laurie Johnson music, and this is music composed and conducted by Howard Blake as well. Yeah, so fine, it's kind of incidental TV series music. What I would say is probably not something I would sit down and listen to in full. Double album, 72 minutes of it, bit of a drag. I tend to buy these things on CD because then you can just pick the odd track and stick them in a playlist amongst other music. But listen to one disc at a time. It's perfectly enjoyable album of theme tune music to sort of what was it detective, if that's not an insult, detective type TV. And then finally, I did have a dig through the bargain bin and found this in the bargain bin. This cost me £5. So this copy is pretty nice. I got a copy of this a couple of years ago, I think maybe last year, from Oxfam, and it was cheap but pretty beat, but perfectly playable. But this looked nicer, and it was, say, for a £5. The cover is strong VG, if not veering on VG plus. Original mono, John Mayall, A Hard Rose, so the one with Peter Green. It's got marks on it, a few marks, but not sort of loads of scuffs and all that. It's just got a few marks on it. The rest, otherwise, it's really clean and strong and shiny. But it's a mono, bulletproof, doesn't really affect play. So I'd say it's VG plus really, but if I was going to sell it, it'd be VG to be on the safe side. But yeah, really happy with that for a fiver. So that is the records that I picked up on the sort of Edinburgh with the Dundee detour, just to sort of finish the story of the holiday. So then what we'd done, so that kind of finished 4 days in that flat. On the Monday after the Sunday performance, we got up early and then we were coming back down the east side. So we went down through the northeast of England with the intention, which we did, of visiting Lindisfarne and Bamborough Castle. So we did sort of Lindisfarne in the morning, had some lunch, went to Bamborough Castle in the afternoon, and then carried on down into Yorkshire, where we were staying in a cottage in the middle of nowhere for a few more days. And so that's what we did, stayed there. And that was also near a small little village, tiny village station where the one carriage train goes through. And so we got the train into Whitby, went to Whitby, and kind of then did a little bit more sightseeing around the countryside, and then drove back to Winchester after that. So a sort of 9-day loop was my summer holiday. So that's got me back on the horse of making videos. Loads. I've been collecting loads. I'm loath to say this, but I'll admit it, and then hopefully no one's watched this far, so no one will notice. But yeah, I did go back before I made this video. I know I've got a lot of stuff, and that's part of the thing that's been building up. Is I've got so many records that I've not been listening to, and I know the answer is don't buy so many records. But yeah, I looked at my Discogs, where I just chuck everything in Discogs when I get it, pretty much. And I went back to like February. So this year I've done one record fair only all year. And I've done just this Edinburgh record experience, Edinburgh Dundee. That's my only shops as well. So that's been my only retail record buying experience of that type. Rest has been buying online, Bandcamp, mainly directly from the artists and labels of all this synth stuff that I follow, or the occasional but very small proportion is Amazon, eBay, Discogs purchases. Not much though, less than 20 probably. And then, but the rest is then car boot sales, the odd charity shop, and digging through people's stuff that I've made contacts mainly through car boot sales. But I looked, because I put everything in there, cassettes, CDs, singles, 12-inch singles, albums, it all goes in there, into my Discogs sort of catalogue. Yeah. That record fair in February, since that record fair in February, I was very surprised at how many items I've added to my Discogs. So I don't know what do you think? No, way more than that. So since February, I've added more than 1,000 items, tape, cassettes, CDs, singles, a lot of singles, 12-inch albums, over 1,000. So I'm not going to show you the 1,000 in the next few videos, but I'm going to obviously dip into that stuff and give you a few highlights. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know, mind blowing. Anyway, so I'll be back soon. That's, what's that, 34 minutes? Yeah. So I've got this off my chest. Hopefully I'll be feeling better, that I'm going to be doing more music VC stuff and less politics podcast stuff. I'll still be doing podcasts, but other podcasts. Okay, I'll stop rambling there. Cheers, VC. Oh, I meant to say thank you as well. Alan, Static Traveller, reached out to me whilst I was been absent and says everything okay. So that was really nice of him. So thank you, Alan, and a few others when I've commented on their videos have just said about time you made a video, Dale, type thing, or looking forward to a video. So again, thank you for that to anyone who's kind of acknowledged my absence or whatever. But it's not about that. Okay, all right. Cheers, VC. Thanks. Bye.